BBC News with Sue Montgomery. A police officer has been killed in an attack near the US Capitol building in Washington after a man drove his car into two officers before getting out of the vehicle and lunging at them with a knife. Police said the incident did not appear to be terrorist-related. Alim Makboul is in Washington.
Police say that shortly after 1 in the afternoon, the attacker drove his car into officers at a barricade to the north of the US Capitol building. He's then said to have leapt out of his vehicle and lunged at police with a knife, at which point, as described by acting US Capitol Police Chief Yogananda Pittman, he was shot.
At this time, the suspect has been pronounced deceased. We do not have the suspect on file with U.S. Capitol Police, so there's no indication at this time that there's any nexus to any member of Congress.
In fact, though the building was busy, Congress wasn't in session. President Biden had already left Washington for the Easter weekend. But just when some of the barriers that had been erected after the storming of the same building earlier this year were starting to be removed, this latest dramatic incident has led to renewed calls in a nervous city for strengthened security.
The US State Department has welcomed as a healthy step forward the scheduling of indirect talks with Iran to revive the 2015 nuclear deal. A spokesman said no immediate breakthrough was anticipated. The European Union says talks will take place in Vienna on Tuesday. Bethany Bell reports.
Even without face-to-face talks, the fact that Iranian and American diplomats will be in the same town is being seen as a step forward. The Russian ambassador to the UN's nuclear watchdog, Mikhail Ulyanov, said that the talks are on the right track, but he said the way ahead would not be easy and would require intensive efforts. The Biden administration has been seeking to engage Iran in talks about resuming compliance. Iran wants US sanctions lifted.
The United States has lifted sanctions that the Trump administration had placed on the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. Fatou Bensouda was sanctioned last year after announcing a probe into alleged US war crimes in Afghanistan. The top homicide investigator for the US city of Minneapolis, Lieutenant Richard Zimmerman, has told the murder trial of Derek Chauvin, the former white police officer who was seen last year kneeling on the neck of George Floyd, that the use of force was totally unnecessary.
Pulling him down to the ground, face down, and putting your knee on the neck for that amount of time is just uncalled for. I saw no reason why the officers felt they were in danger, if that's what they felt.
You're listening to the World News from the BBC. Major League Baseball has announced it's moving its All-Star game out of Atlanta, following the state of Georgia's adoption of a new law that critics claim makes it harder for black people and other minorities to vote. The announcement comes a day after President Biden called for the game to be rescheduled. As Bernadette Keogh reports, it's the latest example of US professional sports leagues taking a stance over race concerns.
The decision by Major League Baseball comes amid a rising tide of political expression within US sport. Since 2016, athletes have protested against racial inequality and police brutality by kneeling during the national anthem, protests which became more widespread after criticism by Donald Trump. The National Basketball Association now allows slogans connected to the Black Lives Matter movement to be printed on players' tops. Critics suggest certain gestures are unpatriotic and superficial, but others point out that social justice issues have been present within American professional sports for decades, especially for black athletes.
European health regulators are continuing to investigate possible links between the AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine and cases of rare blood clots. The Netherlands has become the latest country to suspend use of the vaccine for people under the age of 60, following 5 incidents among the 400,000 people who've been inoculated. Regulators in Britain, where 18 million doses have been administered, have reported 7 deaths. Reports from Mozambique say the French energy giant Total has withdrawn all its staff from a multi-billion-dollar natural gas project in the north of the country. The nearby logistics hub of Palma was seized by Islamist militants last week, and fighting is continuing in the area. The insurgents killed dozens of people, with thousands more fleeing. BBC News.